Hey, Mr. Knowles, big fan of the show. As somebody who was once a Christian, although I'm still fairly conservative politically, I now identify as an agnostic atheist. But something interesting that I've noticed from a lot of young Catholics is how they were once atheists or agnostics who have turned to Catholicism. Could you possibly explain this trend? I'm just curious by it. Thank you. Love the show.
I can explain this trend because it happened to me. Atheism, especially in our age, appeals to people who fancy themselves intellectual. And it appeals to people who want to appear to be smart and not stupid, like all those Rube Hicks who believe all those crazy things like the existence of God, you know, the thing that the most intelligent people for all of human history have believed in. Catholicism appeals in particular to these sorts of people because Catholicism has such a rich intellectual tradition. There are other shades of religion that are a little more emotivist or a little more hokey that young would-be intellectuals will recoil from. But if you fancy yourself a smart person, and I remember when I was an atheist at about 13, which is the perfect age for thinking you're much smarter than you actually are. If you fancy yourself an intellectual, then what happens when you encounter St. Thomas Aquinas? If you fancy yourself an intellectual, what happens when you encounter St. John Henry Newman? If you fancy yourself an intellectual, what happens when you encounter Pope Benedict XVI? I mean, these are people who, regardless of whether you think that you agree with them on these sorts of questions or not, these are people who are all much more intelligent than you are. And it's not even close. We can get along in the world and pretend that we're smarter than a lot of people that we encounter. But when you encounter genius, such as you would see in Thomas Aquinas or John Henry Newman or Benedict or the like, you can't do that. And so you've got to take these ideas seriously. And so that's one way. There are other ways, and perhaps better ways, to find yourself back in religion. But in the modern age, for the modern atheist, I think the intellectual route is very effective. And then I think one of the draws of Catholicism is the rich symbolism of traditional liturgy. I'm not talking about the modern post-Vatican II guitar churches, kumbaya kind of stuff. I'm talking about the traditional liturgy that predominated in the West for almost 1800 years, say, and certainly since the Council of Trent, but obviously much, much longer than that, where everything is rich in symbolism, everything has meaning. You just find a sort of depth there. And so I remember a priest friend of mine made this great point. He said, shallows are clear. Atheism seems so clear to people. Oh yeah, I don't see, God doesn't walk into the room every morning and say, knock, knock, I still exist.
FBI, open
up! And walk out. He doesn't do that exactly. And so it seems so clear that atheism is true. Shallows are clear. Profound things, deep things, sometimes are a little bit murkier or opaque. You think about math class. Did you struggle with trigonometry? Did you struggle with calculus in high school? I did, a little bit at least. Well, if you struggle to understand basic mathematics, don't you think that theology, metaphysics, the fundamental reality of things might be, I don't know, just a little bit mysterious to you? Probably so. I think that's why that rich tradition appeals to people. Okay. I think there are other reasons too, but that's my primary reason, at least, to present to the atheist. Okay, next question.
Mm.